All right, give me a spot. You know my motto, safety first.
They could be dangerous. I think we should call animal control.
Animal control?
To be safe.
Don't worry.
Just...
I got this. It's a new motto.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.
Welcome to this edition of Lancaster Perspective. I'm Mike Miller. Thanks for tuning in today. My special guest, the tax administrator for the city of Lancaster, Andrew Yost. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here today.
You're welcome.
The snowing outside, all that, but we appreciate you coming in.
We made it.
This is the time of year everybody loves.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
It's very exciting for you, but I know there's just a lot of activity with tax season and all those things. But let's talk a little about Andrew Yost first.
Sure.
Talk a little bit about Andrew yourself and.
Okay. Well, I've been with the city now for 14 years, and prior to that, I came from Wonder Bread and Hostess Cake up in Columbus. Mm-hmm. And prior to that, I was working for a local CPA firm here in town. And in total, my wife and I and 2 children have been living here in Lancaster for 25 years.
Wow, that's great. That's fantastic. Mm-hmm. What made you get into being a CPA or a tax? Wake up one day and say, "Mom, I want to do this"?
I've always had a desire for numbers and crunching them and coming out with figures. Taxes themselves, I was even more intrigued with dealing with the different rule changes that came along, both in federal, state, and then got involved at the local level. So I've always had that desire to work with numbers and tax itself.
Let's start out first. Phone number for people and email or website people can go to about taxes.
Phone number for the city of Lancaster is 740-687-6606. And of course our website is www.ci.lancaster.oh.us.
Okay, we'll get that up on the screen. JT will get that up. And I know for sure everything's due by April 15th. That hasn't changed.
That is correct. We follow the same rules as the federal and state. It's due by April 15th. However, for those that need a little extra time, the extension is available. Okay. Both on our and everything, all of our forms and the extension included, and a copy of our ordinance are all included on our website, which I just gave it to you.
Right. People always ask, do I have to file a tax return with the city of Lancaster if I live there?
Yes, we get a lot of questions about whether I need to file or should I file. And the answer is yes. If you are 16 years or older and you have earned income, and it includes college students, truck drivers, over-the-road truck drivers, and construction workers. If you are a resident and you have earned income, you're required to file a return regardless of whether you have a balance due or not. And we do also get a lot of questions for those that are retired asking whether they need to file. And the answer is no. If you do not have any earned income, then you're not required to file. And then we have individuals that maybe have a Lancaster address. They don't live within the city limits, but they might work at the hospital or at one of the local Krogers.
Oh, okay.
And they want to know, well, because they're working in Lancaster, but I don't live in Lancaster, do I have to file? And the answer is no, provided you're properly withheld, and you're properly withheld with a tax that was taken from your income.
People ask, will the city help us out? Well, I mean, I don't know how to do my taxes. Will you help them out?
Yes, we've been doing this for quite a few years. I mean, it seems like the crowd gets larger and larger every year. But starting in January, when everyone receives their W-2s, through April 15th, our office is open from 8 in the morning until 4:30 in the afternoon, Monday through Friday.
Now, historically, do people just put unless they're going to get a refund, I guess, but do people just put them off and walk in at the last minute and drop them? Is the office going to be open, or do people is there a drop box? Or?
We do not have a current drop box outside of the municipal building, but they will come and they will drop it off, or they'll come in and have us prepare it for them. A lot of times they're just not familiar with the form, or they just don't have the ability they feel comfortable filling it out themselves, so they'll bring it into us. There's no charge. It's free of charge, and we do it for them. They'll sign it, and then we just take the copy, or take the original, and they take a copy, and they're finished.
One of the questions that people always ask is, how do they arrive at my tax? How do I know why I'm being taxed at this rate? I mean, I know there's legislation and all those type things, but just talk a little bit about that process. People get their bill and say, my golly, I can't believe I owe that much.
Well, currently the tax rate is 1.75%, but that 1.75% is made up of different earmarks. Currently, anything from up to 1% goes into the general fund and goes towards everything that is required to be paid under the general fund, which is roads and fire and police. And anything from up to 1% does not have to be voted on by the city or the voters. Anything over 1% has to be voted by the voters of that community. And currently, Lancaster has a lot of earmarks over 1% that go towards police, fire, and the parks department, and that's it. That's all. That makes up the 0.75. Anything below that is going into the general fund, which does go towards police and fire, but at least the 0.75 is actually earmarked.
How does Lancaster rate amongst other villages or counties? Is it the same basic rate, or are some higher, some lower?
Some are higher. There's over 600 municipalities and townships that currently tax their municipalities. The highest rate right now is 3% up in the Cleveland area, and the lowest is 0.5%. So it can vary.
Right.
Everything in between. Currently, for example, Pickerington is 1%. We're at 1.75. The village of Carroll is 0.75, as well as Sugar Grove.
We're talking with Andrew Yost, the tax administrator for the city of Lancaster, talking about tax returns. Is there ever a time that you don't have to file a tax return?
Yeah, generally, individuals that are retired and have Social Security or just retirement income, as long as they don't have anything else that's considered earned income, they are inactivated and they're not required to file with us at all on any given year. Anytime they go back to work, maybe they want to supplement their income and work for Lowe's or Walmart or something like that, then that's the only income that they would end up filing with us. They don't have to report anything else. It's just that earned income.
There's the people that take off and go to Florida, and they're just part-time residents. Do they still have to file a return, or how does that work?
They do not have to file a return as long as they do not have any earned income. If they go back and forth from Ohio to Florida, but they work in Ohio while they're here for the 6 months or however many months they're here, then they would file just on that income that they earned while they were here. That's about it. I mean, and it depends too if they're claiming Ohio as what their domicile residence, then anything they earn outside of Ohio would be included as well, as long as it was considered earned income.
Now, you talked about the website earlier. Are questions on there? Can people type in questions to the website and get answers, or?
There's no, on the website it doesn't take any current questions. That's normally what happens is they'll call our office and ask us any specific questions that they may have. We do have on our website, there is a section for asking frequently asked questions, and they will go ahead and answer. Some of their questions that they may have will be answered by those that are currently on there, but the majority of individuals will call our office and ask specifically whatever question they may have.
How much revenue do income tax generate for the city?
Currently, this last tax year, the city of Lancaster, our department collected just over $17 million.
Wow. That's it. Now, when you say you collected, the ones that are not collected, the funds that are not collected, are those just written off, or?
No, those are required. That's part of our job too, is to go after those particular tax dollars to make sure that we get those as well.
Now, how do you do that? I mean, it's as simple as a phone call. Say, you didn't pay us.
Well, it starts off with a letter, and then it can progress to a couple more letters. And if there aren't any responses, then many times we'll take and turn those accounts over to our attorneys that represent us, and they pursue them.
When people are I guess when they're first time doing taxes, again, we talked about living outside of the city and things like that, but if they're paying taxes in another city, do they get credit for this, or how does that work? What's the...
Good example is that we have a lot of individuals that live here, but they work in Columbus or Reynoldsburg, one of the affiliated cities. And what we do is that any income that's earned in those particular cities will get a credit from us up to 1% of the rate. So currently in Columbus, it's 2.5%. We'll give them a credit of 1%, so they would end up owing Lancaster 0.75 to us.
When people always talk about, gee, I'm going to have to file an extension. I just can't get. I mean, obviously, if you're going to get money back, you probably want to file it right away. But talk a little bit about extensions and how long you can do that, how many times you can do that.
Extensions are similar to federal and state. They are on a yearly basis. 1 year you might require it, and then the next year you may not. The catch, though, is that the extension is basically an extension to file the paperwork. It is never an extension to file or pay the tax itself. It's very similar to the federal and state. The tax that is due by April 15th needs to be paid by April 15th. And then you're granted an automatic 6-month extension, just like you are for federal. And then you'll have from 6 months from the date of April 15th to file your taxes.
Has it always been 6 months? Has it always been that long?
It changed for the city. It's always been 6 months. The feds were the ones that changed it originally. They went for 2 months, and then they gave you another extension for 4 months, which was a total of 6. But they've changed that a number of years ago to make it an automatic 6.
I want to go back just a second about the city helping people out. Do they have to make an appointment? Do they just show up? What's the easiest thing to do?
We've never had appointments required. So all they need to do is come in the office between 8 and 4:30, Monday through Friday, and basically it's a first come, first serve. If there's a line, you just wait for the line to diminish, and then the next one up, we help. And again, preparing the returns is free of charge. There's no cost involved.
People that don't want to wait in line, electronic filing?
There's electronic filing. There's 2 different options. We've added the second option a couple of years ago, but it's fairly simple. It's just a matter of going onto our website. You go into the forms section, and over to the right under the current year, you'll see that there's online filing. You just click it on it. It brings up the form, and the form is a fill-in format. It's our form that looks just like a regular paper form. You just fill it out yourself and then submit it. You can either submit it or print it and then send it in with your W-2. Most individuals will go ahead and just submit it if they feel comfortable, and they're finished. We do also have a little bit more of an elaborate type e-filing system, which requires you to go onto our website as well, and it's our online tax tool. And basically, it's you feed the information in off your W-2s or your Schedule C into the system, and it will calculate it for you. And the estimated payments that you may have made are already on there as well. And then it fills everything in on the form, and then that gets submitted electronically, and you have the ability to print it out as well.
What are some of the common mistakes people make on their tax forms?
Oh, very common is taking school district tax credit as Lancaster tax credit.
We'll talk about that in a minute. But
That's a big one. Another one is they'll take full credit for taxes paid to another city, which basically puts them into a false refund.
when you look at tax forms and things, do you look at something and think, boy, that's not... How do they do that? I mean, does it seem like people make the same mistakes over and again, or is it just
sometimes? Yeah, they're basically a lot of times when you're looking at the credits, you can look at the amount of wages, and if you see a figure on line B, which is credits for taxes paid to other cities, if that is greater than 1% of the wages, you know you've got an issue right there, and you can actually go in and take a look and see. We have the ability to look at W-2s also because those are actually added to the download when the taxpayer sends a return in. So we actually have access to their W-2s or their federal return, and we can actually check it out right then and there and fix it for them, and then that way we don't have to send them a letter. We can just fix it and then tell them afterwards why we fixed it.
Right. What are some of the changes you've seen? You've been doing this a long time now. Maybe some of the significant changes that you've seen, and or maybe you might want to see. I mean, what
changes?
Just in general in the tax laws, or maybe the tax, how people fill things out. Are there different changes that have really impacted what the city gets? I mean,
not really. The one nice thing about Lancaster city tax and most municipal taxes is that it is a flat tax. So basically what you earn is you pay 1.75% on what you've earned. Therefore, it's very simple. There's no deductions. There aren't any exemptions or special credits other than credits paid to other cities. Other than that, our forms are fairly simple. Most individuals may say, well, but I can't understand the form.
Right.
It just doesn't read well. Well, it may be just because they have a hard time with the forms themselves, but there's really nothing too complicated about them in and of themselves. I think maybe they get tripped up on the credits and things like that, but it's pretty well laid out. I mean, it's W-2 income. The only thing that I've noticed maybe in the last couple of years is that Box 5, which is Medicare wages, and Box 18 are supposed to be equal. There are a few exceptions to the rules, and we found that one of the exceptions are teachers that and government workers that have been around since 1986. Because they're exempted from paying Medicare wages, and so their Box 5 is always going to be 0, and they get confused by that. And a lot of times we get a lot of confusion on our tax tool because they don't know what to put in for Box 5 because it shows 0.
Do you ever do workshops for people? I mean, I know we assist people right now, but throughout prior to this, do you ever do workshops where people just come in and maybe do a little bit of this?
For the city, I've actually helped out a little bit through United Way.
Oh, okay.
The only thing is United Way currently helps a lot of individuals do their federal, state, and school district, and I've actually been there on one of their Super Saturdays to help individuals answer questions on municipal tax. The only problem with going to an off-site is that I don't have the ability to access anybody's account to determine whether they, currently are filing, need to file, or have any missing returns, or to even determine any credits that they might have.
What's the average, maybe the average return, and how long does it take to get? I mean, do people get $100 back and it takes 6 weeks? I mean, people always talk about, gee, my neighbor got his return. He had it 3 days after he went in, and I'm 6 weeks, and I still don't have mine.
Refund?
Yes.
Refunds are actually processed on a weekly basis, starting now. through the end of April.
Now, when you say they're processed by your department,
Yes.
and you only have 3 people, right? Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
But I stay on top of the refunds generally on a weekly basis, and
So how many returns how many do you do? 60,000, 45,000?
Yeah, we'll do, well, now that it's mixed between e-filing and paper returns, there, throughout the season, we'll do over 20,000
Wow.
returns.
Wow.
So, but the refunds themselves, we don't cut the checks in our department. They are actually done by the auditor. So even though I can process them and okay the actual return, they still take another week to be sent to the auditors for them to actually cut the check.
Maybe the auditor is Bob Wolfinger?
The current auditor is Trish Nettles.
Trish Nettles.
Her
that's right.
department.
Sorry, Trish, didn't mean.
Her department is actually the one that processed the actual check. And as long as I don't, our department doesn't have any issues with the return itself, and there's nothing that holds it up, then it'll get processed and sent off.
Right.
So
So if people don't get their checks back right away, they shouldn't be calling Trish and saying, "Where's my check?" Whereas just hang on, it'll be coming.
or us, I mean, we are actually allowed up to 4 to 6 weeks, to 90 days to be exact,
Okay.
from the date that it's actually approved. We have 90 days to approve it, and that's part of the ordinance and the Ohio Revised Code.
We talked earlier about is Lancaster school tax the same as city income tax and tax rates? Talk a little bit about the difference between those two.
They are not, actually. School tax is actually is collected by the State of Ohio Department of Taxation, for one thing. They collect all school taxes throughout Ohio. And there are basically 2 ways that school taxes are collected. They're either done through property tax levies, or their income tax levies. Now, Lancaster passed their first income tax levy back in 2007. January 1st, 2007 was the very first year that they actually had an income tax levy. And Lancaster's current school district tax is 1.5%. And again, Lancaster City municipal tax is 1.75. And that's where a lot of taxpayers get them confused. They think that we're one and the same. But we don't collect the tax. All of it is sent to the Ohio Department of Taxation, and then they actually give those tax monies back to the respective school districts. And the actual school district, Lancaster School District, is larger in size than the municipal city limits. So it can cover an area larger than Lancaster.
So how does that work? If it's not in the city?
It goes by an address that's
Okay.
earmarked for the school district, and that is done by the state of Ohio. Those districts have been divvied up and drawn based on the streets wherever they're located. But the other districts that are close by, of course, are Bloom Carroll,
Sure.
Liberty Union, Fairfield Union, Byrne Union.
Okay. So there when this all, I guess, one more time, the phone number people can call, website they can go to?
The phone number is 740-687-6606, Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30. And then our website is www.ci.lancaster.oh.us.
And we'll get that up on the screen for you, too. So when Andrew Yost isn't being the tax administrator for the city, what's Andrew doing with his time?
Andrew is, during the summer, I love to play golf.
All right.
And
Scratch golfer?
basically, yes. Self-taught, just scratch
Wow.
golfer. Spending time with my wife traveling, and now that the kids are grown and married and gone. And
Now, are they around here? Or are they,
I have, my son is around here, and my daughter lives in Bellefontaine. But other than that, I'm on a couple of different boards here locally, and other than that, just being around, enjoying Lancaster for the sights and sounds and all the different things that they have to offer.
it's a great place.
It's a great community.
It's a great community. If somebody walked in right now and said, I don't know how to do this tax return, what would be the first thing you tell them?
I would say I need your W-2s and your Schedule C, and we can actually have it finished in probably less than 5 minutes,
Really?
most generally.
Wow.
Most of them are pretty are fast. We have some that are a little bit more involved. Business returns, of course, are a little bit more complicated, and they have a lot more forms to them. But the average individual that resides here in Lancaster and works here in Lancaster, it's fairly simple because they have Lancaster tax withheld, and it works out really, really fast. Those that don't work here and work up in Columbus, but if that's all they have is 2 W-2s or 1 W-2 or a Schedule C, it's not much to it.
Can you remember the first tax return you did? That you did personally?
Yeah, it's pretty much, yeah. It's going way back, but it's fairly simple.
It didn't bother you? Didn't throw any red flags up?
No, not at all.
Do you remember the first one you helped somebody do?
Yes, yes, I do. And again, that's going back. It's going back 14 years ago,
okay.
but yes, I do remember it. It's, a lot of the residents of Lancaster that have been using us over the years are very grateful for us for helping them. We see a lot of the same individuals year after year because they basically rely on us to do their forms for us, and they thank us for it.
Well, Andrew, it has been a pleasure having you come in and talk about taxes and the tax return and the help that the city does. And again, you can call the City of Lancaster Income Tax at 687-6606, and they will help you out. No appointment needed. Just you can come in, take a number, and wait. Or
that is correct.
Well, again, we appreciate you coming in on your busy schedule. I know there's a lot going on this time of the year, but good luck with the golf game. And,
thank you.
Again, if you need any assistance at all, give the City Income Tax a call, and they'll help you out. And we just appreciate you coming in today.
Well,
we really
I
do.
Appreciate you asking.
Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for tuning in to this edition of Lancaster Perspective. I'm Mike Miller, and remember, until we meet again, let's make a difference.
Fairfield Medical Center, changing lives one patient at a time.
Because of bariatric surgery, I can easily sit in a chair at the movies.
I'm climbing new heights after open heart surgery.
My story doesn't end with lung cancer.